Welcome back, episode 3 of Picks and Mortar. This week's visit was to an awesome shop called Ben and Bucky's in South Burlington, Vermont. I think you're going to love this, so I'm not going to yap too much in the beginning. Just want to give special thanks to Jason for accommodating us and for Ben also popping in to share the store with us and just to talk about everything that they've done in this amazing spot. Highly recommend you making a trip there. I could have spent hours and hours there exploring. And so some of the guitars that we're just simply walking past, and amps and other gear, and then panning over incredible boutique pedals. I would have loved to have, gotten in and demoed, almost everything in that store. The factory floor, the production area, it was so clean. Spacious, high ceilings. I mean, it just looks like a great place, to be born if you're a guitar. Let's put it that way. Also, just the taste with which everything's laid out. I mean, there's not a wasted instrument in there. It's more of a boutique style, and so I hardly even bothered looking at price tags. I just tried to enjoy the atmosphere and to know that if I ever was in the market for a hand-built acoustic guitar, that 100% is the place that I would start my search. When you're in the area, when you're up in, we started our trip in Plattsburgh, went tubing through Ausabel Chasm, which was really cool also, and then made our way over, which is gorgeous. I mean, the views, stupefying views from Burlington, or from the Plattsburgh side, and we enjoyed ourselves hanging out in Burlington for the day. And then special credit to my daughter, who came along and worked the camera, and so I appreciate that. No matter what your interest is in guitars, something in this episode will push your buttons and get you excited to play or to pick up your gear or to look into getting some new gear. So ride that wave. Enjoy. Picks and Mortar, episode 3, Ben and Bucky's. Six String Philosophers, welcome. We are in South Burlington, Vermont, hanging out with Jason at Ben and Bucky's Guitar Boutique. I'd love to learn about the shop and how you came to it and what your connection with music is. And
sure.
Anything you teach us.
So we're Ben and Bucky's. We're here on Williston Road in South Burlington, Vermont. And we are part of a larger organization which manufactures guitars. So we're basically the showroom for the manufacturing. So we build Fairbanks guitars, Iris, and these are circle string guitars. So those are our 3 brands. And these are our fearless leader, the owner of the company, is Adam Buchwald, and that's his brand. And then this is Dale Fairbanks, and he builds guitars in a Gibson style. And then the Irish guitars are a luthier-built sort of mashup of the 2 of these guys. They put their ideas together. Instrument that's still made in Vermont. It's still luthier-made in ways that improve the tone. So the finish is a little thinner. It's very durable, but we don't put all the grain filler and whatnot. That saves us a month of prep work for each guitar, and therefore we can lower the price. So, but that doesn't mean they're cheap in any way. They sound beautiful, especially at their price point, and we're gaining an audience as a result. Where a lot of people are coming and buying them.
Now, when you say, so 2 words, boutique made and luthier made.
Yeah.
Is this literally one person who's doing most of the fabrication of the instrument, or?
Well, basically everything is a team build here.
Okay.
So we have about 20 luthiers in total, and we make somewhere around 500 guitars a year.
Right here on site?
Yeah, right here on
That's
site.
impressive. That's a pretty big number.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And but we're all the same team. So the same people who are making these, and or circle strings or whatever. It's the difference would just be the level of appointment, and this has some very fancy
Yeah, can you just talk about some of the
rosewood,
special details on each one of these instruments, why it's desirable or special?
Yeah, I'll start with this one. So this is a Circle Strings Dreadnought, and the back and sides are Honduran rosewood, which is actually a very difficult thing to find. We're lucky in that one part of our organization is called Allied Lutherie, and that's a wood supplier. Oh, wow. So we have this amazing wood stash that we can draw upon.
Some of those are like moratorium on some of those roses.
Exactly,
right?
exactly.
Worldwide.
So basically, this would, this is something that we couldn't build it if we had harvested this recently. The wood was harvested 50 or 60 years ago. So we have a little freer license using it because it's essentially antique at this point.
Is the koa the side wood, and what is
yes.
it, spruce on top, or
yes,
what are they?
Spruce, yeah. Okay. So this would be German spruce on the top and koa back and sides. And let me just show you what we're talking about beautiful. With some of these fancy woods, but just really gorgeous. This is another local builder, and this was made by a fellow named Clayton Pledger, who lives about an hour away, and he's a friend of the shop's, and he happens to build these magnificent instruments. And again, this is beautiful, beautiful stuff on this.
Yeah. So it's super active grain, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of mutually beneficial for us to support some of our local builders.
So what's your connection to the business?
Actually, I'm something that nobody else here is. Okay. So what I do at the shop is I am the repair luthier. So gotcha. I fix things for the shop. Customers bring in instruments and I fix those, and then I also kind of tend to the shop. And another thing I've done was a lot of writing, so I do a lot of write-ups for some of the guitars that we put online.
This looks like an interesting area here.
I mean, one of the other things that we do we're a consignment shop, and these are all Gibsons. Most of them are from the 1950s, although the one at the end is from the 1920s, and the second one in is essentially 2 or 3 years old. It's a reproduction, but it's a very good guitar. And then at the bottom we have a couple of Martins. This is a newer Martin. This is a Martin from the 30s. This is an Oahu from the 1930s. That was another local luthier brought that in for us. He did a whole bunch of work on it to really make it very playable. And then same thing with this. This is another local friend, and he brought that in for consignment. It's from 1915, and it still plays perfect.
Is that the oldest instrument in the house?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, and that these are pretty close. This is from the 1920s, wow. And this is from 1932. So, and this just came in yesterday.
That's pretty.
Yeah. So let's talk about the pedals a little bit. Again, it's kind of a boutique idea where we're trying to get the best of the best of the modern pedal builders who are doing a very creative group of things. So I would start with some of my personal favorites, like the Benson preamps. They're actually, the germanium preamp actually gives you a great fuzz sound, overdriven. And some of these, basically most of these do what they say on the tin. So, the Benson delay, that kind of thing. Jumping over here.
All analog, I'm guessing?
Oh, yeah, pretty much all analog, but we're not scared of digital. This fellow who makes the Snow Day delay and some of the others, he is a school teacher, and on his summers off, he makes the pedals, and
that's neat.
They're really cool.
His company is called Summer School Electronics, which is
that's great.
Clever.
Yes.
Yeah, and we, like Jason was saying, we try to do boutique, best of the best. We work with a lot of regional pedal builders. Let's see, who do we have? Copper Sound Pedals is right down in Massachusetts. They make the triple graph with. They made that with Third Man, which is Jack White's company.
Okay.
These kind of bare-looking pedals down in the corner are from Fairfield Circuitry. Excuse me. They're right up in Quebec, so not far from us either. And back to the beginning of this case. Harvey pedals there out west, Benson's in Portland, Union Tube and Transistor up in Vancouver. We love our friends at Earthquaker Devices. They make a great spread of stuff. Greer is down in Atlanta, or Athens, Georgia, excuse me. Thorpe is a English builder. And then Donner Prince is a Croatian builder. So we're kind of all over the map.
How did you get these relationships with all the different builders of pedals? Because it seems like a huge diversity. It's like a rainforest.
We have one great distributor that carries a lot of them, thankfully, and then a lot of them is based on our own market research and like from our clients who come in and they're like, hey, have you heard of these guys? They're doing really cool stuff. And we'll just reach out. A lot of the smaller builders self-distribute, and some of them work with smaller regional distributors. This is made by a local builder, Smells and Sounds. It's called The Plague. They described it as the rat on crack. It's volume, tone, distortion. This is a circuit switch between 3 different transistors, so germanium, LED, and silicone, and then there's a treble boost or a mid boost on it as well. It's a badass pedal, and to these guys' credit, they just showed up with it, and they were like, "We brought you something to check out."
So literally, this is a hand builder somewhere in your community.
Yep, yeah, just a few miles down the road, and then we have some amps on order from a local builder, Order Amplification. He's got his own circuit that he's designed, and he's got a couple combos that we'll have here in the shop this fall.
How did you guys come up with this? What was your journey like to getting to where you are today? You have a beautiful, the name of our channel is Picks and Mortar is the feature that we do.
Mm-hmm.
You have one of the prettier bricks and mortar places I've ever seen, plus a factory that produces, you said, 500 guitars a year.
Yeah,
How'd that happen?
it started with the factory, honestly.
Okay.
And I was a vintage collector for a long time and player, and I started a relationship with Adam, who is the Bucky of Ben and Bucky's, and is the owner and principal of Circle Strings, Allied Lutherie, Iris Guitars, and some that we'll show you here in a minute. He had a need for a local showroom. The area had a need for a boutique shop, and it all just kind of worked out. The space became available that was already adjacent to the factory. He was looking to expand the factory. I was at a spot where it made sense for me, and that was a little over 2 years ago. I guess we started the planning phases of it in early 2022. But Jason came on board last year through contacts that we had through the industry. We knew he was looking, we knew him by reputation. We have a great, I've got a couple of great guys that work here part-time. Darren has been with us almost since the beginning, and he's a huge asset. And then our friend Scott came on board to help Jason out with repairs earlier this year. So it's kind of grown organically, much like how the manufacturing business. We pretty much list everything and have everything available for sale on our website, benandbuckys.com. We have a Reverb store as well. Cool. We're often out, shaking hands and kissing babies at the guitar shows as well. So we're always at NAMM, and we're heading this afternoon to the Fretboard Summit in Chicago. So some really cool little bits of vintage kit. This Fender came in just the other day, Vibrasonic, killer amp from 1962. Not a lot of them out there. Big, sounds great, single 15. We're a Magnetone dealer. We love Magnetone amps. They're built in St. Louis, hand-built in St. Louis, but we also just took in a really cool vintage Magnetone. So you can see how the modern aesthetic has carried over from, their amps that they were making 65 years ago. So it's very cool, the faithful reproductions that they're doing now.
In all cases, it's kind of cool here because you really get really cool vintage pedals coming through, really cool vintage guitars, and I think in some ways one sells the other. So somebody will play a bunch of things, and then somewhere there they'll find their sound.
I think it's definitely true. Like once you find a special guitar, you kind of want to pair that with an amp that makes it sing and all that.
Yeah, totally.
Anything else? There's some interesting things on this side over here? Or this?
Yeah, more Benson. We got some We carry Benson amps as well as the Milkman amps, also made out on the West Coast. This is an amplifier made by Austin Hooks. It's made out of an old Filmo Sound projector and a old space heater. And that's the type of amp that Blake Mills plays.
I don't know if they,
Amazing session player, just this killer guitar player.
Yeah, you don't know him, but you've heard him.
Yeah, exactly. He's one of those guys. This is a really cool piece of kit, this Analog Outfitters. This is a reverb and vibrato unit that was hand built from the guts of an old Hammond organ. So they took the electromechanical vibrato unit and reverb tank out of an old Hammond and basically made it a pedal. So it's a, you know.
is there like a Leslie going on there too? Like
It-
it's like a rotary of some sort?
It actually physically moves to make the vibrato, so you see the thing spinning in there when it goes, and it faithfully reproduces the sound for sure.
What are some brands that are more mainstream that you think are underrated, that might be ones people would look into? Obviously, a beautiful guitarist here. I see this cool Parker here too.
I don't know if they're underrated at this point, but they are amazing, and Yamaha is what I would say right out of the gate. The Yamaha Revstar guitars, the SA 2200, they're just amazing right out of the box, and we've got a really great relationship with our Yamaha dealer. We love.
Here we can walk past.
Yeah, right over here. We actually just sold the only SA 2200 we had in stock, but we have two different Revstars, one with Yamaha's version of the P90 and one with their humbucker. It's hard for us to keep these in stock. They come in, they leave.
Yeah, and I think the only reason we're getting them is because our rep likes us.
Yeah.
They're hard to find on the ground.
And we carry their basses as well. The broad bass is awesome. The Nathan Ellis signature model is a really cool one. We use the THR Yamaha amps as our demo amps when we go to shows. So those come with us all the time. They're rechargeable, have a bunch of different modeling features and built-in effects, and it's it's the size of a lunchbox.
Yeah.
But these little Yamaha amps, they're great.
You bring that in a cabinet, and that's your.
No, this is it.
by
That's
itself.
speakers.
Yeah.
There's speakers in there, and you can plug headphones into it if you want to get like a private listening experience.
What's the retail on that one?
$470 on the little
Your
guy.
opinion, that would be a great grab for somebody.
Somebody who's a busker, somebody who is accompanying an acoustic player or is an acoustic player. Pretty good. I mean, we run them for most of the day at shows. They're not being played constantly, but we're on the show floor for 6 to 8 hours, and they generally hold up for the day.
Cool.
So.
Yeah, this is one of them. We were talking about Yamaha. We're a Yamaha dealer, but this is a vintage Yamaha. This is an SG3000, and it's the first year, and it's unbelievably heavy, but by design. They didn't want these to be light because they thought that that added a lot of sustain.
That's a chunky profile, huh?
Oh
You
yeah,
look at the side of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's a lot of wood in here. It's a neck-through body
furniture.
construction, and these humbuckers are absolutely wonderful. It's designed to go loud. They didn't put pole pieces through this because they wanted to control feedback. So this is the thing you can play Madison Square Garden with. It's just a fantastic piece, and then it has abalone around the perimeter, and that's at a time in the 1980s when they couldn't do that by machine. It all had to be hand cut in. So
Wow.
so
Just out of curiosity, sticker on this guy?
$3,500.
Yeah, that just seems like everything. All those features you described, I would have thought a greater amount, but that's.
Yeah, I keep on
the
telling
beauty of
people
the
it's a
Yamaha, I guess.
$10,000 guitar, just disguising itself as a $3,500
And
guitar.
So this is kind of a shared space between the retail space and the production facility. These guys are over here finishing up an Iris guitar and getting that ready to ship out. So we call this the setup room. So kind of the last step in production is the guitars come in here. They get bridges glued on, they get fretted, they get saddle made, nut made, strung up, and they go through the plec, which
plec
is a really
machine.
awesome thing. So the plec is very specialized CNC machine that's basically used for fretwork.
It's made in Germany, and we have a constant feed to programmers in Germany, so if we ever have a problem, they pick it up as fast as we do. And just to show you a little bit about what goes on in here is we clamp the guitar on this side with the frets facing out, and this is where it levels out. We adjust it very carefully so it's in just the right position. And then we have 3 cutter heads.
This would be for brand new production necks.
Yes, brand new production necks. I've also been using it myself for repair stuff. So if I have a guitar with lumpy frets after I've knocked the frets in as far as I can, I'll level it on the pluck machine because it's faster and more accurate than doing it by hand. So this is, we built a couple of guitars for Trey Anastasio of Fish, and this is a guitar built to those specifications with master grade koa wood on the back and sides, and European spruce top, which is an old stock. You can tell a little bit in the center seam because it's a little darker towards the edges because it's just oxidized. And this gets a gloss finish on the body and a matte finish on the neck for all the circle strings. And
The
that's
same model that was hanging out on the showroom floor too?
Yes. Mhm. So one last thing I wanted to talk about was the Blue Guitar Foundation. It's owned by a local musician and enthusiast who owns what's called the Blue Guitar Collection. This was a collection of guitars that was commissioned by a fellow named Scott Chinnery back in the 1990s. So he asked the top arch top guitar luthiers of the day to build him a custom guitar from each luthier, all using the same blue die. So this is an example of that. And
That's some flame, huh?
yeah, and the central mission of the Blue Guitar Foundation is to pair up top grade instruments like this, sort of the Stradivarius of the guitar world, with top players who would not otherwise be able to afford them. So they literally have events where they match up the players with the guitars. You get to go around and figure out what your favorite one is, and then you get to have it for a full year. So this is something that's, yeah, exactly. And the last event, I think, had somewhere around 30 guitars and 30 musicians. And our connection to that was that we set up all guitars and made sure they were ready to go for the event. And we're going to be doing more. Yeah, exactly.
So this reminds us, I think last year they had the Guitar Fest at the Jazz Loft in Stony Brook, and I'm almost positive they definitely had some blue guitars. I wonder if that was the same.
Yeah, that would be the
relationship.
same. Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be the Blue Guitar Foundation.
And you said we were talking about John Monteleone. Is he also a
yes,
maker of the blue
he
guitars?
was one of those one of the luthiers who made the original batch. There's going to be another batch that they're commissioning now from. And the idea is for some of the more up-and-coming luthiers to kind of get their shout-out into this space.
I love that pretty design. I love that.
Yeah, it's sort of a traditional thing that Gibson did on their mandolins, and this is just kind of a variation on
So cool.
that.
All right, beautiful.
Well,
Fender Jazz Masters.
Well, we have. We'll talk about our Jazz Master.
Okay, cool.
So, we also do vintage here. So this is a 1962, very late 1962. So for all of you people tuning in, it's not a slab board. It's slightly later than that, but it's still got I believe a December stamp on the neck and December pots and things like that. So it's definitely, very, very late 62, probably assembled in 1963. But it's a beautiful Jazz Master in its original 3-tone burst, and a rosewood board, and original frets, original everything, and it still plays like a dream.
Wow. What was the year again? I'm sorry.
1962, yeah.
Now, what was the special? There was some kind of switch over year where they call it like pre-CBS or post-CBS.
Yeah,
What's the story
basically the switch from pre to post. Actually, we're surrounded by post-CBS guitars right here. So it was basically the switch from this to this. So they one of the things they did was they adopted that larger headstock on a wider array of their guitars because they could be seen on TV. You know, the smaller headstocks from the pre-CBS era were harder to see on TV. So they changed them all to larger headstocks like this originally came with. But basically the big line of demarcation is 1965. And what that means, I think, is you get a guitar that's slightly less expensive after that. And then it's really not until the 70s that in some cases the quality drops off, so collector interest drops off. But then there are things like this, the Deluxe, we have this is 1973, this is 1977, 76. Those are great instruments from the 1970s, and they can be had much cheaper. So that's $5,200, and this is $4,650. But yeah,
that little calligraphy is nice on the headstock of that first Fender you pointed to, like the little
exactly. Yeah, that's the
brush stroke there.
Yeah, they I believe they call that the spaghetti logo.
I'm a fan. I like it.
Yeah, it's a fantastic guitar.
Well, thank you so much for your time. Just to remind the folks, we want to invite them down to your shop and tell them one last time where we are exactly.
Yeah, so we're at Ben and Bucky's on 1891 Williston Road in South Burlington, Vermont, and we're here Tuesdays through Saturdays, and come on down.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Jason. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.